Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today Mañana. I'm Alex. This is Xavier. We're really excited to have you joining us on this very brisk spring morning here in Charlottesville, Virginia.
You know, I have to say something. So you know how I'm a stickler in baseball that I like, you know, when lineups, you know, go, you have the leadoff hitter, the second guy, third guy, right? So I'm just very, very happy that we have our leadoff hitter back in town.
Nick was not a bad.
No, he's very good. I'm not saying it wasn't good. It's just that it's
by definition.
Yeah, I'm just naturally.
It's not as good as your leadoff hitter. Just by definition. What can I say?
Well, that's probably true. That's why he's a pinch hitter, not a leadoff hitter, right?
Yeah. But no, I'm very glad to be back. Always love. I mean, I love looking forward to every Thursday morning that I get to spend with you and our fantastic guests.
Absolutely.
Here on the I Love CVille Network. So it's great to be back after a 1 week hiatus to help some people out in
exactly.
the office.
It was all for good. It was all for good.
Yep, it was all for the clients. What can I say?
That's it.
So we're just really excited to be back. I'm really excited to be back with you, our audience, on the I Love CVille Network set. As always, we are presented by Emergent Financial Services. We are powered by our friends at Castle Hill Cider, which keep your eyes and ears peeled for May 15th. It is the 231 Fest. 231, I just referencing the road that Castle Hill Cider is on. 231 Fest, food, cider, lots of things going on. Music, I believe, is happening there too. Our friend from 2 weeks ago with the pizza, the Philosopher's Stone pizza, going to be there.
Oh, he's going to be there too.
Philosopher's Stone pizza going to be
selling
there.
Pizza, I suspect.
What else?
Okay.
What else would he sell?
Pizza and cider.
Pizza
That's
there with some
good.
cider. So a great time. So be sure to check out Castle Hill Cider May 15th. Of course, the Gym CVille we are powered by our friends there, Spring Savings. They were just on the show last week.
That's right.
Justin and Amanda talking with you and Nick. And of course, by Aqua Hand Car Wash. This is a very good time of year. I implore you to get your cars washed because as an allergy sufferer, everybody's car is green right now.
I get all that green out so it doesn't flow to your house.
Get it washed so it doesn't float into my eyes, please. So be sure to visit Aqua Hand Car Wash. And of course, by our friend Miguel at Serious Credit Insurance, by Vitae Spirits and GBS Financial Services. And of course, we are always partnering with Forward Adelante, the premier Latino networking group here in Charlottesville, Virginia. So I am so excited that I'm back. I say we just get right into it because I'm excited.
I think David's excited too. I mean, he's just bouncing around that chair.
Exactly. Why not? So we're really excited to welcome to the show this morning David Deaton. He is the founder of Deaton Group Consulting. David, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
No, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me, Xavier and Alex. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you to the I Love CVille Network, and thanks to all of the people that join in and watch you all, because it makes this type of programming possible. It gives opportunities for individuals like myself and companies like myself and others that will be joining later to have an opportunity to get out there into the community. So really thankful for that.
Of course, no.
I just want to know something. Did he pay you advertising?
No paid advertising.
This is like great, yeah.
For the show.
Genuine thanks to those who are contributing to the community like you all. So thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. No, of course. That's fantastic. Really, really appreciate it. And of course, we love having entrepreneurs like yourself on. So I mean,
thank you.
For those who don't know you, because of course, I've had the privilege of seeing you speak both to Community Investment Collaborative, upcoming entrepreneurs, as well as to Minority Business Alliance. But for those who aren't familiar with you, tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to the world of helping other businesses to be successful.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And so I run and lead a management consulting firm, a boutique management consulting firm based here in the Charlottesville area. And really, when we think about the organizations and the businesses that are in the community and the unique contributions that they're able to deliver, it really inspires us to be able to support them as much as possible in their efforts. So when they can fully express everything that they're trying to accomplish as a business, then actually not only is the business better off, but the community is better off. Of course. And so for us, that's just a huge inspiration for everything that we're working on. And when I say us, I have a business partner, Ann Thompson, and the two of us in our management consulting firm, we work on sort of that intersection of strategy and execution. So we want to be able to work with organizations to not only set their direction, but to be able to help them implement that direction. So that to us is sort of the important intersection for that type of work.
Would you say that the majority of companies that come to you are more from the service industry or from kind of the industrial manufacturing, et cetera?
Yeah, so great question. We do have a wide variety of clients, and everything from individual solopreneur, professional services, all the way up to multi-billion-dollar infrastructure, technology infrastructure organizations as well. So there's a wide gamut, and I think that for individuals like myself who've had an opportunity to work in a wide area of industries, and my colleague Ann as well, that allows us to sort of lend and borrow from what we're experiencing in one industry and provide that to another industry as well. So for us, we don't tend to have a specific industry niche. What I will say is because we're doing a lot of operations and process improvement support, one of the things that we find is organizations that have a supply chain or an inventory or manufacturing processes, we tend to be able to add more value to those types of conversations because it leans into some of our skills.
Okay.
Alex, you asked in the beginning, how did I get here, right? So I actually began my career in the logistics industry and spent 6 years in logistics. So in addition to the work that we do now, that rooted in that processes, that logistics, that really kind of comes through because it's in our roots. I have a business degree, but it's actually in operations management. So having that opportunity to express that in the types of businesses that we're working with is really important. My assignment in logistics, starting out, and then from there was around pricing. So I had about a $300 million business unit that I was leading, and we revamped all the pricing in a controversial, supposed to be not effective way. Turned out it was, we grew, and we grew the bottom line as well as the top line and had a lot of success and more efficiency doing it. And that analysis and that price work led into a career of market research. And I had the fortunate opportunity to live abroad. So I spent 4 years in Hong Kong where we were developing an Asia-Pacific strategy. And that global experience, as well as the ability to learn how to ask questions, how to understand businesses, how to understand markets, just created a lot of exposure to industries, but a lot of different cultures as well. That's very important to me. So that research then led into, okay, what are we going to do with that information? And how do we lead and create recommendations and strategies to be successful? And that's really where I've spent the last 10, 15 years of my career, is parlaying those experiences into how do we understand the information, into how do we set the direction and move it forward. And then this last bit has been around how do we then implement that and create the, kind of going full circle back to my roots, how do we actually create the operational expertise to make sure that the strategies that are developed actually happen.
Which is so key, because I know we've talked to so many fantastic entrepreneurs on the show, and one of the I guess topics that we'll always cover is when you enter into business for the first time, right? There's the actual thing you do.
That's right.
Right, the widget you made or the service you provide, and then there's all those other things on the back end that you sometimes didn't realize you were going to have to do.
That's
and that
right.
are so key, and really they fall under that logistics, operations, how do I price what I do, and
That's
those
right.
are sometimes I think things that people struggle with. So it's awesome that you're able to help people to sort of navigate that side of the business so they can be successful in the thing that they're actually doing, that they love to do, the passion that they have.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's sort of three stools and three legs of a stool that we go back to. The first is around, do they understand their markets? Do they have the analysis and research and the understanding of their customers and the markets that they're operating in? And that leans on a lot of the market research background that we bring. A second would be, do they understand their finances? Are they able to look at their books and read their financial statements? Whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit, do they understand that completely and how it's impacting their direction? And then do they have the operations to be able to execute on that, all within the context of the direction forward and strategy? That's hugely important. So those three things is what we sort of look towards to be able to sort of uncover how an organization should be moving forward.
So I'm curious. I'm interested about something. So I mean,
Please.
I suspect that you have, some companies come in and say, I'm struggling, so I'm trying to figure out how do I succeed in the sense that it's just not going as well. And then I'm sure there's others that say, we're kind of bursting out of the seam here, and how do we get to the next step? But and I suspect that you kind of help both. And so, but I was wondering, given sometimes when the economies are going up and down, do you ever get a sense of that the economy is moving in a particular direction by who's coming through the door, who's asking for help? Is it, in other words, do you kind of gaze at, wow, things are slowing down because people are coming in this particular sector or area of need, or is that something that really doesn't happen?
Yeah, no, so first of all, great question, because you're right that there's this polarity, this barbell around what we call it chaos killers. Like we're oftentimes brought in when there's a lot going on at an organization. It could be internal, it could be external. That tends to be an area where we thrive and add the most value. And it's at both ends, right? We do have a lot of experience with organizations. One that we're working with now has received many multi-million dollars, and they only have like 5 people. So how are they going to make that all happen? Right. And then at the other end, we've had, I haven't been profitable for a while, and how is this really going to work? And so those are, you tend to, the holistic view that we have on an organization, and actually understanding those intersections is what makes it unique to be able to deliver at such extremes. Not every client wants all that stuff. They may want just a piece of it, but we tend to add the most value when all of that's kind of coming to bear. So I think that there is some indication of what's happening from an economic perspective. So we get a sense of when organizations are feeling a lot of windfall gain because things are happening and coming their way. But we also see where there might be tension points where we thought things were going to come back because of COVID. It's releasing. These things are coming back, but we haven't seen that. And how do we prepare for that? So there are some areas where I feel like we've got a little bit of a lead time on to things that might be happening in the broader economy. Prior to COVID, we were talking a lot about business resiliency. That we noticed that things were very buoyant in our markets, and we weren't sure necessarily always why. And so we wanted to talk a lot more about how businesses are preparing themselves for a potential downturn. We run a 10-15 year bull run as a market prior to that. Absolutely. And that's not, COVID was not anticipated. I would by any means,
but even
something was going to happen, and the conversation around business resiliency wasn't always happening. So when COVID happened, I feel very blessed and fortunate because we have been talking about business resiliency, and people were picking up the phone and saying, hey, months after COVID, can you guys do a workshop series on business resiliency? Can you do a 3-part and get that out there within the community? And the answer is absolutely yes, because we've been talking about that. And the tools that are needed, both in how you think about your cash, but also how you think about your strategy, those tools in a bull market don't work. And you have to be able to shift immediately. And so what we're oftentimes working with organizations on is, hey, that formula you were working with, it doesn't work in this new scenario. Right. And if you don't know these 3 ways in which strategy should be expressed, and how to analyze it and know whether it's healthy, then you're going to be sort of rooted into one methodology. And when that methodology breaks, you're not necessarily going to know exactly what to do. And so that's what we're able to sort of contribute to that conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, it's fantastic. One of the things I noticed from your website that I loved is that you worked with so many different, like you said, businesses in different stages of their existence.
Yes.
So often you think of business consulting and the first thing that comes to mind is, all right, I want to grow. How do I grow? But you also worked with having to turn around, like you said, having to be resilient, or if you're in a tough spot as a business, how to sort of overcome the challenge that you're facing. What would you say are some of the joys or challenges of working with so many different scenarios? Yeah, no,
it does go back to that vision that we have and the recognition that businesses that are and nonprofits are able to sort of fully express their unique deliverable, right? Businesses exist for a reason, whether they're at a national stage or a global stage or a local stage, right? They're providing something, and when that's fully expressed, that's contributing positively. And when you're able to work with a business leader, and like I said, sometimes we're working with leaders of large organizations and solopreneurs, and you're able to see them sort of fully contribute everything that they have, all their thoughts. When you wake up in the morning and you hug your spouse and you kiss your child on the forehead and you go to work, it doesn't matter if you're the business leader or if you're one of those cogs in the wheel, if you will. Right? You're taking time away from things that are precious to you. Mm-hmm. And if that time isn't seen to be as valued in what it contributes, that's a shame. And when we get to work with those businesses and those people to make them feel as if they're contributing everything possible into what they're doing, it's powerful. It's a fuel. We very much believe in the power of purpose-driven organizations. So, conscious capitalism, environmental and social, ESG, impact, whatever that all that school of thought is, it's really powerful. And the research is firm that organizations that are purpose-driven are more productive, they're more profitable, and they hire and retain better talent. And so, establishing that sense of, hey, why are you doing what you're doing? And then let that derivative of that be profitability and good talent. But understanding that foundation of why is really important in order to lead organizations forward. And it doesn't matter about the size or industry. And a lot of organizations lose touch with that, and it oftentimes becomes why they're in that pickle that they're in.
Mm-hmm. And we see it ourselves. How many times we comment when entrepreneurs will come on our show, what comes across first and foremost is the passion.
Exactly.
And you realize that they're doing this business that they have to provide something that they love to others. Yep. And out of that derives, like I always say, like when you take economics and boil it down to its 101, what profit is really nothing other than value added.
Right.
It's the business owner, the entrepreneur taking a bunch of different things, a bunch of resources, putting them together in a way that no one else can.
That's right.
Like they do, and then presenting it. And the difference, the value that they've created by doing that creates profit.
That's right.
And so the key, though, is that value part. Is to have the passion for what you do and say, here's why I'm doing this. Like you said, if your only goal is, I want profit, well, what value are you adding that will generate profit?
That's right.
If you come into it saying, here's what I want to do, here's what I love to do, that in itself begins to generate the value, which creates profit.
That's right.
And
I'll add to, I think, some of the listeners who might be local businesses or smaller businesses or solopreneurs in the area. There are two things. One is that the ability, I think there's been an overemphasis on we have to be so firmly unique, that we have to do something totally and radically different. And sure, that's great. Like, I don't want to dismiss that. But there's other research that suggests that actually the unique ability to pull things together, it doesn't matter if it's a common and ordinary business, but that unique ability to pull it together and deliver it actually is a competitive advantage. And actually is something that people can charge premiums for, because not as many people can do that. And so really encouraging people to say, yes, find your lane, find that distinction, but take heed on how you're doing that efficiently and effectively to your point, to contribute that value into community. It doesn't have to be completely new under the sun, but just that you're doing it better than other people. The second is for our solopreneurs and our small businesses. The two keys, I think, that we see, and I've done had the fortunate opportunity to work with the CIC, the Community Investment Collaborative, and some of their businesses, and a huge fan of what they're contributing to the community. Please tag them into whatever messaging that gets out there. I love everything. If you can do that, I love everything that they're doing.
Absolutely. Nick will put it in there because they're just a fantastic organization.
They really are, and I think the ability for small businesses and small business leaders to manage their time effectively is huge. And so we've talked a lot about time management and how to prioritize and focus, how to delete the things that are not important that you might think, and how to get rid of distractions, how to delegate things that other people can do. It's real tough. The second is the values, especially with solopreneurs. You oftentimes, as an individual business leader, are not always articulating and wrestling with your internal values. You know them, right? They come because you live with them every day. They're who you are. But you're not always writing them down on paper. The moment you hire one person those values are the most important thing you've created as a business.
Interesting.
Because that person is now representing you and your brand, and they're interfacing with your customers or your vendors and everything else. And if they're not acting in a way that demonstrates who you are and your DNA, then there is some separation that as your business tries to grow, whom you are and what you're delivering is now something else. It's that other person's. And so we'll oftentimes work on understanding what are our shared values, what are our institutional values, and how do we make that actually a paramount criteria for how the business moves forward. And when businesses do that, it seems simple and it seems lofty and it seems kind of light, but man, it's powerful. It's powerful.
It's not as easy as it sounds to actually articulate a value that you may have held your whole life but have never actually written down.
And it's going to be something that's in the business, not just something for you, right? It's a business, it's your institutional value, and there's some difference there. But it's really important for that. I will tell people the values are things that even if you can accomplish your strategy and you can be successful, if it compromises your value, you don't do it.
Exactly.
So it's the ultimate stopping point.
Yeah. And that's so important, right? Because sometimes you think about that. You have your business, right? You grow this business, and as you mentioned, David, you have these values that maybe you haven't written them down, but you know they're there.
Yeah.
And then the minute you start hiring people, if you don't make it clear to them, if they don't know those values, right, that business can go down a rabbit hole really quickly.
Yep.
Because before you know it, there's other clients like, I'm not happy with your service anymore for whatever reasons. Like, you didn't realize the mistake you made. So that's so important to be able to write that down and then be able to make sure that as you hire more people, they recognize that those are values. This is what we represent as a business.
Yep.
Yeah.
So key. I mean, what would you suggest for? I mean, because I know you've worked a lot. I remember first time I met you there was a CIC. You were presenting actually to CIC class.
Yep.
On cash flows.
Yep.
I mean, because you volunteer as a discussion leader there, which is just really fantastic. And of course, the CIC class is usually made up of very early stage business.
Yep.
Or people who are still creating a business.
For sure.
Themselves. So what would you suggest to someone who's kind of an aspiring entrepreneur out there in the community saying, I have this passion, this thing I really like to do, I think it may be a viable business. What would you suggest to them to really be thinking or keeping in mind?
Well, two things. One is that the number one reason why startups fail is that there's really not a true market for what they're providing. So they really need to have a check to make sure that there's a desirable market for what they're delivering. And it's also okay, so the second part of that is to iterate or adapt or whatever fancy words we want to use, is to get out there in a way that might be small and doable, and then continue to learn and adapt through that experience of what you think. So find in fancy speak, it's the MVP, right? So find the smallest version of whatever you think that business is and try it. So as a silly example, perhaps if you're thinking about a daycare business, maybe the first thing you're doing is writing a blog about a daycare and how they should be done or how they should be adding value within a community.
Right.
What reaction are you getting to different topics? Maybe it's not a blog, maybe it's just a post. Which ones are actually getting liked? So there's really small versions of your future business that allow you to experiment and iterate such that you can learn how that will continue to be successful. The next thing would be is network beyond network. I'll tell you, if I have a second, I'll tell you a funny story. The power of the network is amazing. So we work with some of the university students. And what we notice is this as interns, an increasing understanding of how important their network is. So I made a post one time and I acknowledged a lot of individuals and interns that we worked with. And, the first years and second years, didn't hear anything. Third years and fourth years may have gotten like a post or a thanks. Those that had graduated, not only did I get a like or a comment, I got an email from those individuals saying, thank you so much for acknowledging the work that we've done. I really appreciate being part of it. So there is this, you can see it, this increasing trend to understand, hey, the way I keep an active network, the way I acknowledge it, and recognize it. And when people give me credit, to be able to reflect that back and thank them, you can just see that learning curve, and it accelerates. In fact, because now they're 2 or 3 years out. They understand the power of a network.
That's right.
And that doesn't come through. So the earlier people can recognize that, the better.
The better. I mean, in the end, it is all about people. It's you connecting with customers, potential customers, people you can assist, people who can assist you. That's really what businesses survive on.
Yeah, we do an annual survey to our customers. We got to learn. If we've made mistakes, we want to know.
Right.
We want to adapt from it. But we do an annual survey, and the number one, and we, by the way, post our results on LinkedIn. We're transparent. Like, this is what we're trying to accomplish and doing. This is what our customers are saying about us. There's things that we want to work on because of that. But the number one reasons why people come to us, to add to this point, is trust. And people recognize that, we're going to find a way to help them. I mean, when we work with a business, big or small, and we have big and small clients, we are shoulder to shoulder with that organization to say, how can we help you be successful? And we really believe that, and they know that. They know we're going to find a way within the things that we can deliver to say we're going to find a way to make sure that it's successful, because that's what they've hired us to help them accomplish. They're often coming to us in that challenged point, right? I got a problem.
That's right. Sure.
The problem could be, I don't know how to. I've got this huge windfall in front of me, but I don't know how to get hold of it. Or it could be that the things are kind of falling apart, but they're coming to you in need. And we really want them to understand that we're going to listen to that need, understand and internalize to our soul and to the marrow of our organization that need, and be able to start to deliver upon their successes. And usually that sort of calms the temperature. And we're really blessed and fortunate to be able to know that clients trust us so much.
Absolutely. Well, David, this has been, last question, of course, where can people find you?
Yeah, no, thank you. I'd love for people to go to the website. They can not only learn more about the organization, there's a lot of let's talk or contact us information. So it's just DeatonGroupLLC.com, and I'll just DEATON GroupLLC.com. Really welcome my email's there, and other ways to contact, and really welcome the opportunity to have a conversation with anyone who comes through.
Absolutely. This has been fantastic.
This has been great. Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
I think there's some takeaways I can even bring back to my own business.
So bring back to your partners,
Bring back to the partners at
Emergent.
You for the chance. So really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, David. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, as we
it's funny, but I was thinking about this, and you're talking about expanding and networking, and I always remember the story of the Duesenberg, which presumably was one of the better cars ever built, but it never got anywhere because there was no networking, no marketing. In other words, how important that is, right? And it's nice to see resources like David provides, because let's be honest. I mean, every business most of the time does go through something, whether it be an up or down, and to have a partner like that where you can just say, I just need somebody to look at what I'm doing and maybe helping out in figuring out what am I doing wrong, or maybe I'm doing this right but not enough of it. Man, it's great to have a partner like that. So it's great to have. That's a great resource.
It is definitely, absolutely. Thanks to Elizabeth LaMarche for watching the show today. That's some great. Be sure to let us know what you're thinking. Any comments? Any questions? We're really excited to swap from someone who works with so many entrepreners to two young entrepreneurs themselves.
Very young entrepreneurs.
I wish these guys had been here when I was writing the Lily DeRay wrote the Forward Adelante 5 under 25 article.
Oh, yes.
5 entrepreneurs under 25, because these two guys would have been right there. So we're really excited to welcome to the show Levi Otis and Thomas Agnew of Streamline Plumbing. Guys, thanks so much for joining us today.
Good morning.
No, thanks. Thanks for having us.
It's awesome to have you here. I remember the first time I knew what you guys were up to was a friend of ours, Levi Otis, was having trouble with her fridge, and all the major companies that are supposed to connect it couldn't figure it out. And then she was like, Levi came in and he fixed everything, like the fridge, the water, the line with the water and everything. And I said, oh, wow. I already knew Levi was good at chess, but now he can do all these other things.
He's good at fixing refrigerators too, I guess.
Apparently, he's good at this thing called plumbing as well.
Plumbing, there you are.
And so, for those who don't know you, of course, though, tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you guys decided to start Streamline Plumbing.
Yeah, I would say it started like 4 years ago.
we were given an opportunity to work for a plumber, and we got in the door a little bit and saw that there was a lot of opportunity for maybe some change, some positive change.
Yep.
Mostly that there was just a lot of opportunity just to give something that other companies weren't giving. And then another way was after we had that opportunity, we started, we were both pretty into reading. We mostly listened to books on Audible, and we listened to a lot of self-help books, and then also kind of transitioned into business books after we saw that there might be this opportunity in the plumbing industry. And so, yeah, I would say that was kind of what sparked the interest. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say before, we kind of joined plumbing, we saw that there could be a lot of different improvements, and we were like, hey, maybe we could do this, maybe even better. And that was doing very first, working for them. And I can't remember if it was during that time or before that, we knew we wanted to start a business, and we had an opportunity to buy a coffee shop in CVille. And so we looked into that, we met with them a couple times, looked into the financial stuff, and we decided that wasn't a good idea for us. And so from that, we kind of decided we personally wanted to start a necessity business over a lifestyle business. And so that kind of led us towards plumbing as well.
Interesting.
Great time to really start a plumbing business too, considering the fact that, labor in today's world, one, is paid well, and two, it seems like, in today's world, you call somebody, who's like, yeah, I'll be able to come and fix that in about 2 months. Like, wait a minute, I got a big leak. 2 months is a little way out there, right? So the timing is great, I suspect.
Yeah, we do feel lucky for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I remember when you came to visit us, and one of the things I remember is that most of the time you think of when you think of people who work on your plumbing and stuff, there's not super enthusiasm. But I remember when Levi was over for a completely different reason, and he's like, "Can I see the thing that I'm going to come with Thomas to work on?" I'm like, how many people actually want to go see the plumbing instrument that they're going to be working on in a couple of weeks? So just enthusiasm of what you guys do. So I'm curious, does that play into what makes Streamline Plumbing unique? How would you describe yourselves? What's unique about the two of you and what you put together?
Yeah, I would say probably one of the things that makes us most unique, that's a great question, by the way, would be kind of something that you guys were actually talking about previously with David, that you guys, a good business is trying to create value. And that's kind of part of our vision statement, is creating and giving value everywhere we go. And I would say the thing that sets us apart is the aspect of giving value, not only creating it and trying to make something new, something that other people might not be making at that point, but also kind of giving a surplus. So we like to think of it as like a simple bar graph. You have the service you provide, and then what the finances that the person might be paying you. And then anything that's above that, or the surplus above just the service that they're paying for, is giving value. And so that kind of gives us and a little bit more motivation. It inspires us to create systems that allow us to create value better, so we have more opportunities to give value.
Yeah, I would also add, it kind of comes along with our love of plumbing and business, is that I think we both love improving systems. And in our business, I'm in charge of digital systems, Thomas is in charge of physical systems. And so I would say throughout everything we do, we're always thinking, how can we do this better? And I would say in our industry, I wouldn't say that's something I see very often, where most people don't really like it. They would just rather not be doing plumbing. And there's more of how can I get by? And I think that sets us apart as well.
I think what's impressive, and I didn't know this before they came, right? That Levi's a chess player, but what I thought was really also very impressive was
Levi's a chess player, and I think you have a BS in a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering.
Yes.
So it's not like you just picked up.
So it's a little bit both. So what I thought was very terrific was the fact that we had an issue, right? And he came in, and he thought about it. And it wasn't like off his head. They'll say, maybe it's this or maybe it's that. He thought about, what can be. And he started to look around to see, as you said, he was just excited. He looked around the system, figured out, and before I knew it, he said, I think I know where the problem is, right? And he explained it, and eventually they come back and fixed it. So it's nice to see, especially young folks like that can sit back and say, let me think about this, right? And like in our business, somebody doesn't come in and say, here's the problem, you shout out the answer. No, you have to think about it, right? So there's something more, you have to think about everything that goes into the solution. Yeah. And I think both of these guys, I think that was the most impressive, at least to me, was their whole process, how they came about in solving the problem and making sure that it's done right.
Yeah, great comment from Jerry here. Says you don't see a lot of plumbers with a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering from UVA. To be sure. So what are the number of things? So you've got that. I know you're certified also as both electrical and plumbing certification and water treatment specialist. So you guys both have your certifications in a lot of different areas. What kind of what are some common things that you help people with, or assistance that you provide that you've done? Obviously, water heater.
Yeah. Water problem, water pressure.
But what are some
problems.
other things you've helped people with, and that people should know? Okay, if I have this problem, I can definitely call these guys.
I would say a lot of what we do is like repair plumbing. So it's like someone will have like a leak in their crawl space, or their toilet's always running. Or their shower's dripping. So a lot of it is like their plumbing stops working correctly. And I feel like that's definitely kind of like a direct like trigger for them to like search out a plumber. And so that's usually how we end up at their house. And a lot of times while we're there, they'll be like, this has always bothered me, my cold water comes out slow. And so we'll take a look at that as well. But it's usually when something breaks that we actually like come out there.
Yeah, I would. Go ahead.
No, so I guess that's part of it, right? So a lot of times that happens, right? Something breaks, and then you get the experts in the house, and you say, by the way, while you're here, I also have this problem here all the time. Do you have any ideas? And I guess this is where your expertise really comes in.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say, ideally we come in when they have a problem, and then they like us enough to want to show us other problems. I think that's something that can be different. Yeah. Sometimes they don't want to show the other problems that they would like fixed but don't necessarily need to be fixed, because maybe they think they can't afford it, or they just don't want to deal with this technician anymore. Sometimes that's how it is, and so we really want to change that. And I would say another thing that we specifically work mostly in residential work. So we do some commercial, generally light commercial, and then also remodeling, not a whole lot of new construction. So those are the things that we are typically working on.
Basically, helping people with their problems, and it's like, I need someone to help me fix this.
Well, and that's the most important thing, because a lot of times we've done that. You build a house, you get a plumber, they build a house, but then something goes wrong. You call the plumber. It's like, well, we don't do that. It's like, yeah, but you kind of put it together. I would suspect that you'd have somebody to come service, but they don't. So it's nice to have access to people that you can trust and that that will be able to solve your problems. Right?
Well, like I said, the people who installed our friend's fridge, they themselves could not fix the problem. So it was Levi who came in and said, all right, here's what the installation crew did wrong, and here's what I can then fixed it. So here you have something that you have no one else to call. Just saying, the people who installed my fridge don't even know how to fix this problem. And then Levi came in, you guys thought about it, they figured it out, and said, all right, here's what you do, here's what I can do, and fixed it.
I think a lot of that is due to like a lot of companies not specializing, because I think we do a lot of different things. It's really hard to be good at what you do. And that's one of our goals, is like just doing plumbing, really and just like trying to focus on, and like one of our principles is saying no to good opportunities that don't align with our vision. And I think that helps us to do those things, because when we install fridge lines all day long, it's easy to know what's going on to be able to fix it properly.
That's so true. It's so important. Like we were talking with David, to keep the vision. The vision straight and keep on that vision. So I got to ask. Both of you guys are under 25, which is just amazing. That's just this level of entrepreneurship. Any advice that you have, having started your own company, for like young entrepreneurs? Any challenges you faced, or do people sometimes say, "Oh, you guys are really young," and then you have to sort of overcome that?
A little bit.
What would you have to say?
I would say number one, like the number one thing I would say, what kind of gave us the confidence to do this, gave us the energy, and I think has helped us be a lot more successful just learning about business. And I'd say primarily from us is listening to business books have been radically helpful for us. And so that's the number one thing I would suggest. And I feel like the more you read and the more you learn, I think the more likely it is you're going to be successful. Like you can't help but be more successful if you know a lot.
Yep.
And so that's the main thing I would suggest.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, a lot of young people, they have these new crazy ideas, kind of like what David was saying, that there's oftentimes they want to do something radical. And I would say, plumbing isn't necessarily radical, right? We kind of wanted to start maybe a coffee shop because it sounded exciting, maybe a little bit different. And I would say, we kind of landed on plumbing because we saw something that, it wasn't necessarily radical, but that we could make small tweaks and changes to ultimately build a business that may make a radical change. And so I would say, not necessarily just getting excited about the product itself or the service itself, but maybe like the change that you can make, I think would be important.
Yeah. So don't feel the need, like
David was saying, right?
Sometimes the product you provide doesn't have to be this crazy thing.
No.
The value, the crazy thing you're doing, like you said, the radical thing you're doing is taking something that is ubiquitous, and a lot of people do it and say, because of my particular talent, because of the fact that you guys are both smart, you're both really into this, you both learned so much about business, you're saying, I can make changes to the way this is done that will provide way more value than is being provided currently.
Or I can do things in a way that some people like better, right? Because sometimes, there may be like four or five, types of businesses, the same business, but you may say, this particular company, I just like the way they approach it. I like the way they do it a little better than the other three. And it's the same thing here. I mean, here you are, two young, under 25, talented folks, young men that you can just see, one, they have the passion, and two, the process by which they go about analyzing. You sit there and go, wow, I mean,
it's kind of
that's
unique.
great.
You don't the way you guys approach it as a system, I think, is really unique and different, and sort of looking at it as a holistic problem that you sort of, you were telling me how you could see their minds.
Yeah, I could just see them,
working through to figure out what may be at the root cause of the problem.
Yeah, and I would say I initially got into mechanical engineering. What inspired me for that was improving systems in manufacturing. And I love the Gilbrists did a lot of work in manufacturing efficiency in the early 1900s. And there's other people in there that I've loved, and I always liked the idea, but I kind of realized in exploring this that manufacturing there's already been a lot that's been improved. There's not many things to improve there, but I feel like applying those principles to a more complex system like plumbing, I think there is so much to improve. And so that's kind of been, we kind of see the value of business creates, it's more confusing in knowledge work, but I think the value business creates is the sum of its efficiencies. Because I think if you go straight somewhere, versus going this roundabout way to the same place, you end up at the same result. But by going there straight, you can charge less and you can make more and you can give more value away just by creating a more efficient system.
Very well said.
That is extremely well said. I couldn't even have thought of saying it better myself. But that is just so true, and you can see it in the way that you guys work and the steps you take and the efficiency with which you do it. So it's a joy to behold, and I'm sure a lot of people can definitely benefit from it.
Yeah, just a quick story because I remember this is a long time ago. It was another house. I think it was, I don't know if it was Brooklyn, whatever. Right? And they had two plumbers come in. One, they came in really late, and they still charged us for the lateness because it was New York traffic. Right? I'm saying, why am I paying for that? But anyway, so in the end, these two guys are there, and they go, well, what do you think we try this? I don't know. We can. And I'm sitting there going, they're actually questioning whether or not that's the right move to make. And I'm saying, I'm not sure these are the right guys for this job, right? But these two guys weren't like that. It's just again, nice to see that they think about it, but once they resolve what the problem is, they know what the solution is, as opposed to, well, let's try this, see what happens. If it leaks, we know it wasn't the way to do it.
You never want that.
Absolutely. No, so before I let you guys go, where can people get in touch with you? Where can people find you?
I would say probably the best way if you just want to like join our company and kind of experience our progress would be on Instagram at gostreamlineplumbing.com or gostreamlineplumbing.
Go Streamline Plumbing.
And then for like hiring us or for using Streamline Plumbing, the best place to get us out there is our website, which is gostreamlineplumbing.com. And we have an online scheduling tool that a lot of people have said that they liked that makes it really easy to find a convenient time slot. And,
Yeah.
And
Pretty cool.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So the key is Go Streamline Plumbing.
Yep.
Instagram to support and see what you guys, because you guys are fantastic. It's actually really neat on Instagram, the things you guys will show and you can sort of get an idea for what goes on with the company, which I think young entrepreneurs can also be inspired by that, because you guys will put your post about how you're studying something business related, or you're doing some back office work that sometimes entrepreneurs say, what do you mean back office work? Like, don't I just do my thing? Said, no, there's a lot that goes into that. You guys sort of put the realistic picture of what goes on behind the scenes of a business. So that's an awesome tool. And then GoStreamlinePlumbing.com to hire these guys.
Yep.
So
That's it.
Levi, Thomas, thank you both so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you for
Real
having
pleasure.
us. We
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks
it.
for having us.
Good luck.
We'll definitely have you back. Alrighty.
Yeah, one day you should talk to these guys about that graph you have about capital, right?
Oh, the human capital,
The human
financial
capital, yeah, 'cause as plumbers, that human capital
Oh,
eventually.
right now
as you
they're
get
at peak. They're probably at peak human
human capital, that's right.
peak human capital, and then it's like turning that into financial capital.
Exactly, absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a great graph. I love that graph.
It is.
It tells a great story.
Always so awesome to like talk to people like David who are like so knowledgeable about business, and then to talk to entrepreneurs who are really getting into it, getting started, have learned so much, have put in so much learning beforehand about how business works, and then now they're improving their products and services and really getting out there and
it was perfect, right? Because as David said, when you start a business, it doesn't have to be, nobody else has even thought or done this. This is so unique, right? Sometimes it's not a matter of being unique. It's a matter of being able to provide a service that in a different way that somebody else hasn't thought about it.
Exactly.
The solution may be the same.
Particular talent
Exactly.
that only you have.
That's right.
This
That's
picture.
right. And so, a plumber's a plumber, right? In our view, but the way they approach a problem and how they service is so
completely
important,
different.
right? Exactly.
Absolutely. So so much to think about and learn about, and that's why we love today Mañana. And of course, we got it's funny because David, when you were talking with David, you mentioned something that I think sort of ties into the financial topic that we kind of wanted to discuss today, which was those leading indicators that you might see of how the economy is going, where we might think about the future of the economy in the U.S. And I know on Tuesday we had been talking with Keith on Real Talk with Keith Smith about it. He had wanted to bring up before you had to go close the deal.
That's right.
He had wanted to bring up that topic of stagflation and what does that mean and what might we be looking at there. So I know it's been on your mind a little bit as well recently.
Yeah, and I think things repeat themselves, right? And I think everybody now is. There's just. What happens is you look back to history and say, this is what happened in the past. Very similar things are happening now. Therefore, are we going to have the same thing happen? And so, a lot of talk about whether or not we're looking like we're going into a recession, right? That's one of the talks. And the other one people are talking about is stagflation, right? And it's like, what is stagflation, and are we going into stagflation? And one of the things I try to explain to people is that, when you think about real GDP, right, which is the number that...
basically, GDP is the size of the economy.
The size of the economy, which
And
kind of
real
indicates
GDP
to
is
you
its
how...
growth minus inflation.
Right.
So in other words, if the price of everything goes up 10%, the economy really didn't get 10%
exactly.
bigger.
And so, and the other thing is that real GDP is really measured by actual quantity that is sold. So let's take gas, for example, because it's an easy one that most people understand, right? So when the gas is a $4 a gallon and you buy 25 gallons, that's $100, right? When gas jumps to $5, right, and all of a sudden you spend $110, you're only buying 22 gallons. There's 3 gallons short. Therefore, your GDP number is now lower.
The
But
actual
yet-
production is
that's
less,
right.
even if the prices went up.
Exactly. So there you are, GDP is lower, you've just spent more money. So you spend $10 more than you did before, you bought less of something you used to buy, and therefore those $10 can no longer go to buying something else, right? So what you're seeing, a situation here is that we have an inflationary environment, right, for various reasons, right, that is impacting how we as consumers have to deal with what we purchase. And the fact that we are now purchasing or think about purchasing less of certain things because we can no longer afford it. In other words, our budget, if our budget is $110, right, I can't buy more gas because I only have $110 to buy. I can't get to the 25 gallons. So think about that across the board. So you have a situation where inflation continues to go up, and part of it is, corporate earnings, right, begin to go down a little bit, right, because they're paying more for product. As we mentioned before, your producer price index is at the highest ever, which means that the companies have to buy product
Producer
at very
prices is
high.
what the companies are buying before they sell you their
That's
goods.
right. So if they don't pass that along completely, that means that their earnings are going to be suffering, right? So their earnings are suffering. They're not producing as much, right? They now have to produce less. So basically, you can see that the GDP number we talked about, which is production, which is actually the amount of quantity sold begins to decline, right? So you have a declining economy, an economy that is stagnant. I mean, it's not growing as fast as one would like it to grow, right? But you have still an inflationary environment because everything continues to go up, right? So, whether or not we're going to be in a situation where it's stagflation, I like to think of it more that because of where we are and where we came from, I think we're going to do a slowflation. In other words, we're going to have a slow-growing economy with relatively high inflation numbers up until a lot of things to settle. And like I mentioned a little bit on Jerry's show, the world has changed. The pandemic changed a lot, and this particular event in Ukraine has also changed.
This particular war has been particularly problematic because of where it's located. I mean, in addition to the humanitarian cost, unfortunately, the economic cost of having a war in the breadbasket of Europe is significant.
Exactly. So wheat, right, is going to go up. Fertilizer is going to go up. Energy prices went up because of the situation in oil, right, and being generated by Russia. So the pandemic also taught us that we can't always depend that we import X, Y, and Z from just one particular area in the world.
There are things we absolutely need.
That's right. Because all of a sudden, that's right. If you shut down the supply chain and we are that country no longer shipping because they're shut down, you no longer have that product. So I think the entire world, and you read this all over the place, the entire world, you look at Germany, you look at Greece, you look at Italy, you look at Portugal, you look at Scandinavian countries, they're all beginning to think, how do we begin to produce more in our own countries of the essentials? America began to think about that even before the pandemic, right? In other words, how do we begin to manufacture and produce again? And the issue is when you do that, of course, labor costs are going to go up. And so you're going to have that. Long term, it may be a positive event, in particular for a large country like America, because we can produce more. We have, the resources exactly to produce more. So, but it's going to cost more. So I think Americans little by little are going to recognize that inflation, I believe globally and in our country, is going to be elevated for some time, and then eventually it'll settle down.
Once you reach the newer stable price level,
exactly,
it will stabilize. Really, the key is sort of to parcel out what's the inflation that is, in a sense, unproductive, meaning it's inflation that's been caused by supply chain crises or wars or too much money in the system, or oil prices being inflated too much because we're not producing enough, all those different things. What is sort of unproductive inflation, and what might actually be productive inflation, which is a higher price level because Americans are being employed as opposed to people in sweatshops or in places where, yes, does that mean we're getting a cheap good if it's coming from a worker in China who's being paid $1 an hour? Yes, it's cheap, but it may not actually be the right thing to do, and it may be not in the long-term interest of either the worker in China or the United States for that to be the case. So at some point, when you move from the sweatshop to the United States, yes, are you going to reach a higher price level Yes, but that may actually be a productive thing, because you now are employing someone in the United States who wasn't otherwise employed in that field, and you are no longer encouraging that kind of behavior in countries.
other countries.
Yeah, in other
Exactly,
countries that don't
exactly.
have our system of rule of law.
Exactly. And wages for those particular people are going to go up, so that's a positive.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it may take a longer time for that to level off, plateau.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you. I mean, certainly when it comes to oil prices, when it comes to other resources that right now are being challenged because of the war, those things will eventually, hopefully sooner or later,
those begin to
will go away. Yeah, yeah. So, it's challenging times. The important thing, as we always tell all of our clients, is you don't invest for, next week. You invest for a particular event, whether it be your retirement because you want to buy a home, because you need to buy a car.
Exactly.
And so there's a time frame. And so you have to think about that time frame. What can I invest? What should I invest in? And just let the markets do their work.
Exactly.
Because
we
they
often
always
talk
do.
about, really, for most clients that Emergent Financial Services works with, and most, I would say, the average person out there who's saving for retirement or for a car or for a home, it's really a question of risk management rather than
That's right.
seeking a particular gain. You don't go into it saying, I want to make 20% a year, because you're going to end up taking too much risk. You're going to end up chasing returns. You're going to be, well, that was up 20 last year, let me buy that, and now it's not anymore. That was up 20 last year, let me buy that, and now suddenly it's not anymore, because things are constantly fluctuating.
That's right.
Tech looked great. Anyone who bought tech looked like a genius in 2020. Anyone who bought tech at the beginning of 2021 doesn't feel like a genius right now, because
That's right.
things constantly
That's right.
fluctuate. Right? So it's really a question of what is the risk that I can afford to take given my time frame. Right? You invest accordingly, and then you let the market go where it will. In other words, you understand that I'm comfortable with this level of risk. Maybe the market will go down, maybe the market will go up, but my portfolio will move as a percentage of that market move based on the risk that I've chosen to take. And if you have a short time horizon, you're often going to be looking at less risk. Right? Particularly if you're already in retirement, you're approaching retirement. If you've got a really long time horizon, you can't worry about large market swings.
Exactly.
Because
You
you
can't
have
worry
to
about
understand,
volatility.
I'm taking a lot of risk because that's going to give me greater reward in the long term.
That's perfectly said, exactly. I mean, and that's the right word. I mean, when you think about what we do more than anything else is risk management.
It's risk management.
Right? Because we have to understand, one, what the goal is of the particular client, and two, what his risk tolerance is, because everybody's different. Some people are very risk averse, and you have to push them into taking a little more risk. And there are others that are willing to just, buy as much risk as possible.
Say,
We have to rein them back.
but,
that's right. Where it's like
you're about
you
to
can't afford to take that kind of risk.
You can't put you 100% in biotech.
So it's risk management and human behavior. You have to kind of manage both, and then create that portfolio that will work for them. So, but again, it's it's interesting times. There's a lot that goes on. There's I mean, it's just amazing how much I read with regard to and me. I think history is important, but in this case, it doesn't always repeat itself. So everybody says, "Here's what happened in the past, therefore this." I sit back and say, the times have changed. I mean,
Exactly.
way back then, the central banks of the world were not involved in any decision-making process, right? They are big time, and that even though we're raising rates, right? If the economy starts to slow down dramatically, would we expect the Federal Reserve to continue to raise rates?
If anything, you might expect them to undo what they just did.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's patience, and just make sure that you understand your goals, you understand the risk that you're willing to take, and
as we mentioned on Real Talk with Keith Smith, and also don't be afraid to talk to professionals in this sphere or anything. I mean, with housing prices, if you're worried about you're looking for a home, you don't know if it's the right time, talk to someone like
Absolutely.
Keith Smith.
Yeah.
If you're worried about the markets or your portfolio, you don't know, am I taking the right level of risk? I haven't looked at this in years. Come and talk to us. Does it really, people such as Keith, people such as us, we don't charge you to come in and talk to us.
That's right. Yeah.
We're not here to say, the 1 hour of my time,
We don't have a little
that's
timer there.
$300. Yeah, here's the plot.
Yeah.
Come in and talk
Like
to
a
us.
taxi.
Yeah, exactly. Do not be afraid to go to that little contact submission form and emergentfs.com and put in a contact to us, because that's exactly what we're here for, to educate and to help people not be afraid and nervous in challenging
And make the
times.
right decisions.
And make the right decisions and
Yeah.
not make mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to, as you and I know, sometimes they'll come to us and say, I did this, what do you think? Well,
Exactly.
a little late now,
It
but.
can be helpful to come
That's right,
beforehand and say,
exactly.
what do you think about this before
Exactly.
I make this decision?
Exactly.
So, I mean, as always, it's been
Been
such
fun.
a pleasure. I'm glad to be back. I really loved our guests this week. I mean, I'm sure you and Nick had a great time with our guests last week
Oh,
as well.
absolutely.
but
Yeah, no, it's a blast.
it
It's
was-
always every Thursday really
Every
is a blast.
Thursday is
I
so
have to
much
admit.
fun. Phil and I learned a lot today, both
Yes.
about business and all about ways to, like, I learned things about an approach to plumbing that I didn't even know existed, and just fantastic to have great entrepreneurs on and to know that our community is well served by all these small
Yes,
businesses
definitely.
here.
Definitely.
Just thanks to our audience. Thanks to Raquel Suarez, Stacy Sepp for watching. Thank you, Terrence Smith, for watching the show today. Thank you, John Blair, for watching the show today. So a great audience that we had today. Really always appreciate your participation, the fact that you like and share and comment on the show. Just always awesome. Be sure to send us any small businesses, any entrepreneurs you think we would have to have on, and we'd be happy to bring them onto the show, talk with them, and just showcase them to our fantastic Charlottesville community.
It's fun.
Always appreciate Judah Whittaker behind the camera, our fantastic producer. He makes everything work. He makes us all look good and does our
Keeps it
musical
rolling.
chairs, keeps it rolling with the musical chairs here on Today Mañana. Love being here in the I Love CVille Network set. Next week, we're going to have on some more fantastic guests, Luke and Maggie from Hazy Mountain Vineyard.
Oh,
Going
right.
to join us. So, this is the time of year to really start.
Absolutely. This is beautiful time
Start
of the
going to
year.
visit those vineyards and get those beautiful views and that fantastic wine and good food that I know that they have. And just really appreciate Emergent Financial Services for being our presenter on the show. And of course, we love being powered by Aqua Hand Car Wash and by Vitae Spirits. They have their spring menu as well now.
Oh, okay.
At Vitae Spirits, so be sure to check that out. Of course, by Sirius Craddock Insurance, Castle Hill Cider, the Jim Seville, and our friend Johan Torres at GBS Financial Services.
Hopefully things have
now calmed down a little
hopefully
bit.
Johan's kind of able to get up and say, "Oh, okay, I don't have to fill
I
out
can breathe again.
another 1040."
I can breathe it in, but I know he's probably helped so many Latino businesses and
he's
other
amazing.
businesses,
He's amazing. Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
springtime before the tax deadline, and he will be there again for those who need him for your extensions in October. But until then, just always love partnering with Adelante, the premier Latino business group here in Charlottesville, Virginia. Thanks so much for our audience for joining us. We're excited to see you all next week for another Today Mañana. But until that time, hasta mañana.